Right, so yes, this is all about choosing and applying to a university. My name is Petia and I work for the undergraduate student recruitment team here at the University of Bath in the beautiful Southwest. We are as part of this, we do a lot of work with students, parents, teachers, etc., and carers, and talk to them all about the world of higher education, and especially about us here at Bath as well. I'm also a University of Bath graduate. I graduated last year with a degree in sociology. So I actually have been through this process not too long ago. So I'll be able to give you any kind of helpful tips and hints, both from a graduate perspective and from a previous student perspective too. So starting off with the kind of choices ahead, and of course it is a big decision. I'm sure you all know that. When it comes to choosing what you want to do after you leave sixth form, you really do have quite a lot. So there are over 350 universities and colleges, and there are 36,000 plus courses. And this includes everything from a bachelor's degree to an undergraduate master's, to a foundation, degree apprenticeship, and even some work-based learning programs as well. So there's loads to look into, and there's loads that you can really kind of research on as well. But hopefully we'll be able to clear up the whole process in this application when it comes to university applications. When it comes to choosing a course, your child or whoever you're supporting in the application may wish to consider a few different things. What is their favourite subject at school or college might be the first thing that they want to consider. So for some people, it could be, let's say, it could be as simple as my favourite subject at A-level is history, and so I want to go and study history at university. Alternatively, you could want to consider which subjects you've been most successful in. So it could be that maybe your child really likes maybe two courses, but perhaps they're more likely to be more successful in one of them, and so they might want to go with that one, or they could even go for a joint honours in that case. They could also look at it in the lens of what interests them the most. So I always give myself as an example here, because I studied sociology, but sociology wasn't offered to me at my school at A-level. And so in that case, it came down to me to do the research and find out actually what my interests were and where I wanted to go with it. And so I went through that lens especially. And after that, you may also want to consider what your child or whoever you're supporting wants to do after university. So for a lot of courses and a lot of professions, this will be pretty straightforward. If you want to be a doctor, go into medicine. If you want to be a vet, go into veterinary science or something related to that. So this could really help inform their decision. However, a lot of courses do just provide so many transferable skills. Like my course provided me with a lot of transferable skills that would make me kind of good in a lot of different roles. So this can be something to consider, but it shouldn't be, you know, in a lot of cases, it's not the be all end all of the decision. As I mentioned earlier, there really is quite a lot out there, and there's probably a lot more than you might think. So we do have some of the more traditional courses, so something like history, biology, physics, etc. However, there are new and emerging programs as well. So American Studies is something that the students are showing increasing interest in. We have things like natural sciences, pharmacology, and then we also have more interdisciplinary subjects as well. So something like international management with modern languages, or international management and modern languages. And then finally, there are also a lot of vocational courses as well. So something like wildlife management or medicine or French and translation. These are all courses that have a very practical aspect. So it's down to whoever's, you know, choosing what they want to study, what they want to consider, and whether they want to mix it up a little or go with the more traditional subjects, etc. When it comes to supporting somebody through this application process, these are some of the key things that you can do. When it comes to choosing a course, you should encourage some reading. So going beyond the school syllabus to make sure that this is actually something that they want to do and that they're really interested in, and they know what they'll be investing 3-4+ years of their life into. Do they know anybody with any similar interests? When it came to me, I had one history teacher at my school who had done history with sociology at university, and so I spoke with her a little bit about the course and what she liked, what she didn't like, etc. So I could get more of a grounding into what a course out of, in sociology would actually be like. You should also investigate any non-school subjects. So these might be things like, for me, that hadn't come up in my A levels, and so it was really helpful to investigate things that don't come up during the traditional studies. And you should also investigate course content. Each university will provide a bit of detail on each of their courses, including course content, the distribution of exams to coursework, etc. These are really important factors to consider. And of course, you don't want to be going into a course not knowing anything about it. So absolutely do your research into what each course will entail and how this might differ between universities as well. And as I said earlier, think but don't overthink about career plans. Of course, you should be looking to the future. You should be looking into university and how it can help springboard them into their life after university. But in a lot of cases, many courses just provide a lot of interdisciplinary and kind of transferable skills that can lead to a lot of different career paths. And of course, we recommend that students consider their course choice first, and then they go to start to consider different universities. Just because when you consider from the course point of view, this can either really, really narrow down the amount of universities that might offer that particular course, or it could really open it up, but it will just save you that disappointment. So some universities, so let's say American studies, it's only offered by maybe 30 to 40 universities or institutions in the country. However, something like geography is offered by many, many more. So it just saves you that disappointment instead of going, I want to go to X university and then find out they don't supply the course that I want to do. You can start from the opposite way around and just save yourself that hassle. Now that you've chosen the course, or you've helped choose whoever you're supporting in the application process, you've helped them choose the course and what they want to study. That's great. Now it comes down to researching universities. And these are the important factors that we've highlighted that we think can help make that decision. So is it home or away? Some students find that they want to stay living at home and they want to stay in that family home and commute to university and just have that close, have that really nice and close to them, so they don't have to leave wherever they've grown up, wherever they currently are now. And this can, of course, be quite beneficial. Some students do prefer to be in that kind of comfort zone, and it can lead to a lot of financial freedom as well, because living away from the home does come with its own set of costs. However, some students like to live away from home. For me, what was important was that I was away, but not too far away. So I was maybe an hour to an hour and a half away from where I lived, which is in Reading, when I came to Bath. And so for me, that was just kind of a really important part to my university process, is to kind of live away, go to a campus university, and just have that independence right away. And as I say, living away from home does grant you that independence. You have to be responsible for yourself, your own time, your finances, your cooking, etc. And that can be really scary, but it can also be a really rewarding experience too. As I say, there are pros and cons to both. Just like there are pros and cons to whether your child wants to go to a campus or a city university. At Bath, we're a campus university, and that means that we have a lot of benefits of having a lot of our kind of academic buildings and other facilities in one place, so they're really easy to access for our students. At the same time, we also have a good kind of studenty feel and vibe, and a kind of a good feeling around campus. Everything is focused towards the students and what students would want to prioritize and take advantage of. At the same time, we also have a lot of campus investment as well. So this can really be a good way to kind of have that stepping stone between living at home and living completely, out in the real world, let's say. So for me, that was a really great way to spend my first year, was at a campus uni. When it comes to city universities, they also have a lot of benefits. You could have a lot more independence when you're living in a city university, simply because you're right in the middle of it, right in the middle of everything. You have amenities close to you. You might have more access to part-time jobs as well because you're closer to them. And so these are things to consider as well. League tables are also quite important. However, it's up to you how much value you want to place on them. League tables can be looked at from the perspective of looking at the top universities in the country. You could also view them by department and by subject of study as well, which is how I would definitely recommend viewing them, because the top university in the country overall might not be the best provider for the course that your child wants to study. And so you should look at them definitely with A, a grain of salt, and B, from a departmental perspective as well. These are, of course, great independent sources of information, and they rank different things like student satisfaction, access to facilities, quality of feedback, quality of learning and teaching, etc. So the Complete University Guide, The Guardian, and the Times and Sunday Times are the main three in the country, and you'll find a lot of information on their websites. Student satisfaction is also incredibly important. Of course, we want to make sure that that whoever is going to university in your life has a good time, because at the end of the day, they will be spending 3 to 4 years, maybe even more lives, maybe even more years of their life doing this. And so you want to make sure that they're having a good time while they're there. So the Student Satisfaction Survey, or the NSS, is the independent and honest insight provided by students around the country after they've graduated. And questions include things around academic support, teaching, and resources. So this can tell you more about what a university is doing to help keep their students satisfied. Going back to the list we have here, we have entry requirements. This is pretty straightforward. Do you think that you can meet the academic requirements for a particular course at a particular university? And do they require traditional A-level grades, or do they require UCAS tariff points? Placements and study abroad are also important to consider. At Bath, we have a very, very large and expensive and holistic placement scheme, and this is what draws a lot of people to us here at this university. And we also have a really good study abroad program as well. If your child is really enthusiastic about this, then you might want to look more into the universities that offer courses that have these attached. And then finally, look at facilities and accommodation as well. Are the facilities like the library open 24/7? How affordable is the accommodation? Do you get to live in university accommodation the whole time, etc.? So these are things to consider too. Okay, so how can you help them make a good university choice and help them make the choice that is best for them? Of course, encourage them to consider all of their options and not just try and narrow it down immediately from the beginning. Whether they want to consider local or national, campus or city, just try and keep them with an open mind until they've kind of sorted through their thoughts and really gone, okay, I really want to go to a city university, or I really want to kind of be at a university that's maybe 3 hours away from home, etc. Encourage independence. It's their choice, and they'll be kind of living there and doing this university course for 3 to 4 years, as I keep saying, and so it should be their independent choice, but you can definitely support them and help them work through their thoughts. Do you know any other parts of the country well already? So you might have lived in, let's say, the Southwest before, or you might have lived in the Northeast before, and you might be able to help give them a bit of a taste of your experience. Attend any virtual open days or facilitate these. And we'll have a bit more information on that in the next slide. And understand the entry requirements. As I said, some universities look at traditional A-level grades. Some universities want to see UCAS tariff points. So you can see a conversion chart of what each grade converts to in terms of UCAS tariff points, and that will help you understand what the requirements are for the university and the course. And of course, think but don't overthink about practical travel arrangements. I know when it came to me going to university, when I spoke to my mum about it, she didn't want me to go anywhere. But, you know, it was a case of, okay, that means we kind of met in the middle and I didn't go too far out, but I was also far enough that I felt I was independent as well. So we came to a bit of a conclusion there quite easily. As I mentioned before, open days are a really, really great source of information. You can find out a lot about the student insight and experience at a particular university, and that can really help you and your child make this decision together. They're usually clustered in late June, early July, and around September as well. These dates might have changed due to the virtual nature of everything happening right now, but you are seeing a lot of them crop up. So just try and maybe sign up to any newsletters from universities or any kind of newsletters from UCAS that can tell you when open days are happening, and this can really help you as well. Register in advance if possible. This will help make sure you get a place, and write down any questions in advance. This will just mean that as you're watching a lecture or a presentation or a Q&A or something like that, you can come prepared already. And if you find that somebody said something else that's really, really interesting, you can maybe add that to your question, or it just means that you know what you're there to find out, and you're more likely to find out if you know that beforehand. Take any notes, and also go to talks for parents and supporters, because these are specifically targeted for you and can really help you get your head around the whole process and what it's like to be a parent of somebody who attends that university. So let's talk more about the application process in general. So now you've decided, okay, my child wants to study this course at this university. Wonderful. So what our university offers based on? We start with their prior academic performance, so their GCSEs, their A-level grades, including any contextual data and mitigating circumstances as well, so something like an illness. Then we move to their predicted academic performance as well, so any predicted A-level or IB grades. The personal statement is a large section of this decision-making process as well, and I'll talk to you in a lot more detail about what that looks like in a second. And the school or college reference accompanies the personal statement and helps back it up as well. The interview, this is for some courses at some universities. For many courses at many universities, it isn't something that you have to do and it isn't something you need to worry about, but it could be a part of the application process. And in this case, where you do need to go to an interview, the personal statement will be used as the basis for that interview, most likely. So now looking at the timeline, so as I said, you begin to see some school events, some kind of fairs, some open days happening early in the application cycle. Moving into the 15th of October deadline. This is the deadline for all Oxford, Cambridge, medicine, dentistry and veterinary science courses. And then for all other courses at all other universities, the deadline is the 15th of January. This moved this year due to all the changing circumstances and the kind of unpredictability around today's world. And so it's increasingly important to be keeping an eye on UCAS and to be keeping an eye on any emails and communication you have from the school regarding any changes in deadlines, because quite often, even though the deadline might be the 15th of January, you'll see this deadline internally be a lot earlier at the school. And that is because they want to make sure that they can write all the references in time to send them off in time for the general UCAS deadline. The 15th of January deadline is what's called the equal consideration deadline. As long as you apply by that deadline, then you're given equal consideration along with everybody else. If you miss the deadline and you apply afterwards, then this cannot be guaranteed. Cool. And then after that, it's up to us to get back to the students who've applied to us and make our decisions. And so this is hopefully by the end of March. And then after that, students need to put down their firm and their insurance choice. So that's their first and their second choice for university. And this needs to be done by May. Again, these deadlines have moved this year, so just please keep an eye on any communication. So as I mentioned before, the personal statement is of course a very big part of the application process itself. And in many cases, students will never have written anything like this before. And they might never write anything like this after as well. It's a very interesting piece of writing. But essentially, it is a piece of writing that answers the question, why do you want to study this subject and what makes you the right person for this course? It's a maximum of 4,000 characters or 47 lines, whichever comes first. So it's not a very long piece of writing. It's only maybe an A4 page in size, and that's only one-sided as well. And you really want to show the university really why you want to do this course and to give relevant and specific examples as well. As I mentioned, the personal statement might be used as the basis for an interview, if indeed an interview is required for the course or for the university that your child is applying for. However, for the majority of cases, the personal statement is the only opportunity that your child will have to speak directly to a member of the admissions team and let them know why they are the right person for the course and what their motivations are. It also allows them to provide evidence that they might not be able to provide in any other part of their university application. So they might want to say, okay, I was a prefect. Wonderful. This isn't really anything you can put in any other part of your UCAS application. And so it's a really good thing to include in your personal statement and give evidence of your experiences. And then finally, it can also be used for a lot of near-miss applications. A near-miss application is when a student applies to us and they don't quite meet the academic requirements or any other requirements for entry. In this case, if they are quite close to meeting the requirements, we can have a look through their personal statement and we can say, okay, given the strength of this personal statement, we would still like to offer you a place with some reduced requirements. So this is a really, really good way to show that you have that motivation and that willingness to succeed at university. So now you've heard me go on and on about how important all this all is. How can they stand out from the crowd? When it comes to the personal statement, we really do encourage a lot of wider reading and wider research in general into whatever they're interested in studying. So things like keeping up with the news, that's incredibly important, knowing current affairs. You might also want to maybe look into some online journals or some online periodicals, so something like History Today or The New Scientist. It's a really, really great way to access up-to-date information and research and things that are going on in the field that are incredibly relevant. And this can be a really great thing to reference in a personal statement to show, again, interest. And this is what we would call a supercurricular activity. So this is something that's related to their academic interests that they do outside of their traditional studies. At the same time, they don't have to just be reading. They can be watching documentaries, TED Talks, they can be engaging in online courses. So things like TED Talks or online courses with the Open University or FutureLearn. The latter two are what are called MOOCs, so these are massive online open courses. FutureLearn is a really big hub for these. And these are typically around 6 to 10 weeks long, and they require maybe 2 to 3 hours a week of work outside of the course, but they can be a really great way to give an introduction and, again, to show motivation and interest in a particular subject if it's relevant to what they want to study. And I really do encourage these. These are things that we, as an academically strong university, we do like to see. So how can you help with the application process then? Of course, encourage wider reading. Like I said earlier, when it came to choosing a course, it's just always important to do this. First off, to make sure they do actually want to study this course and they're actually interested in its content. Secondly, because it's a great thing to put in their personal statement, and it's a great way to show, again, that they are a reflective learner and that they are prepared for the level of study that they want to undertake. Encourage academic conversation. If you are not perhaps an expert in some sort of niche physics theory, perhaps you can find somebody in your life who is, or maybe they can find something like this through an online forum or something like this, just to help encourage that kind of academic thinking and development. Or maybe in most cases, it is really kind of the best way to learn is to teach it to somebody. So you could say, okay, well, teach me about this concept, teach me it in kind of layman's terms, build up my knowledge, and that can help them understand it better and really think, okay, I'm actually really interested in this. I love learning about it. I love telling people about it. Personal statement proofreading can also be a great thing for you to do. This just helps make sure that the personal statement is the best it can be and it's polished and ready to be shown to an admissions selector. Know the deadlines, as I said, keep in touch with the school and keep in touch with, and prepare for results day as well. So emotionally prepare them, kind of help them with preparing for, worst case scenarios, but also be very encouraging as well. I'm sure you're very confident in their abilities and I'm sure they'll do really, really great. But yeah, just prepare for different kind of scenarios. And then here we have some FAQs. So we don't really have time to cover all of them in detail, but I'll just start off with a few. So student finance is of course a really big topic for parents and carers, and I have sent Dave here a really good recording of our student finance talk. It's a very short introduction to the world of student finance, and he will be able to distribute that to you after this. However, I do want to also stress online resources such as Save the Student and student finance guides like this can be a really helpful way for you to get your head around the whole student finance deal as well. Also check university websites to see if they have any specific bursaries or scholarships available that your child may be eligible for. I've seen articles about clearing. What does this mean? Clearing is where if a student receives no university offers, declines all their offers or fails to meet the conditions of their offer, or applies to university very late in the year, they will enter into UCAS clearing. In brief, as students receive their A-level results on results day in August, universities advertise any remaining places on their courses and can make offers to students on the spot, usually over the phone. What's interesting is that there's also the opposite to this. It's called adjustment, and this is how I came to Bath. So when I came to my university results, as to my A-level results day, I ended up finding that I actually had better grades than I expected, and I rang up Bath and I said, do you have any courses left on your sociology program for an adjustment student? And they said yes, they did. So clearing and adjustment kind of serve as ways to kind of find out if there are any extra spots on particular courses available when it comes to results day, and to still be able to secure a good spot on a good course at a good university, even though it might not be your first choice. When it comes to indecision, of course, follow our previous advice when it comes to reading, talking academically, and talking about their choices and the future. Maybe they might want to consider a gap year. A lot of students would like to do this after being in education for, 15 plus years. They just want to kind of take a break from it and kind of have that time to sort through their thoughts and find out what they really want to do. And of course, we recommend visiting and talking to universities as well. As I said, it can be a great source of information for you. I just want my son or daughter to be happy. What if they make the wrong decision and change their mind? If they end up changing their mind during the application process, they do have the option to decline all their offers and enter clearing, or to withdraw entirely. They can also contact universities to request a course switch, and in some cases we might be able to do this. And of course, we also recommend considering a gap year as well, again, if they want to sort through their thoughts. If a student changes their mind or exceeds their offer on results day, again, they might be eligible for UCAS adjustment, just like I was. And they might be able to search for better or alternative courses, providing they meet the requirements in some way. So these are really great ways just to kind of deal with indecision around the university process. And I also want to point you to some other resources that we have here. So The UCAS Parents, Guardians and Carers Guide is a really great resource online that can really help you sort through this whole process, maybe go through it with your child or whoever you're supporting through the process. And this can help you both understand how it all works. There are also UCAS monthly parent newsletters that you can sign up to. The Complete University Guide and The Guardian are also good sources of information. Of course, we also recommend going onto individual university websites as well and seeing what they recommend too. So thank you all for watching and listening to this presentation. If you or your child would like to keep in touch and kind of find out what's happening more with the University of Bath, feel free to scan the QR code that's on the screen right now just to find out what's happening next with us and if we have any events coming up. We do have a couple of open days planned in the summer, so just to keep an eye on us, if you want to scan the QR code, feel free to. But I'll now happily take any questions that you've had while watching and I'll hopefully be able to answer them.